Welcome to today's Destination Unknown. I'm your host, Alyssa Hall. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of the alternative uses for your tarot deck. So, of course, or really any deck, I preface that by saying tarot, and this particular video will be called Tarot for Creative Writing. But really, any deck will do. And I have both a tarot deck as well as an oracle deck to show you today while we practice a little with this different technique. So we have spent a lot of time talking about what it means to use the cards as a form of divination. Divination, if we define that, would be a way to speak to the divine, however we envision that force in our lives, whether that be an inner guide, an exterior force, a heavenly force, a celestial voice. All of those are absolutely applicable to how you choose to use your deck for guidance, and specifically often for spiritual guidance. We look at the deck for advice and especially for prognosticating and future casting to get an idea of what might be coming next for us so that we can better prepare ourselves for those options. That's what we've been spending so much time focused on. But as I've said in a handful of other of the videos in times past, you really aren't locked in to only future casting or prognosticating when you are using your tarot deck. There are lots of forms and ways to use it. People definitely use it as a way of self-discovery and starting a dialogue with themselves or with their higher selves. And that kind of can be in a way of awakening or bringing an awareness to your life that maybe wasn't there before. But today we're looking at a little bit more of a creative approach, which is the creative writing. So when we think about the tarot itself and we start to look at the cards and we just start pulling out some of these archetypes that are in there, that's exactly what they seem to me, especially as you start looking at these cards and thinking about them in a storytelling aspect. So for now, where I've been encouraging all of us to use our intuition, so interesting she came forward right on that concept, to use our intuition and to push ourselves into those other areas of our mind and of self-exploration, this is going to feel a little different. And as I mentioned before, also in a video where I talked about being psychic and the psychic voice. For me, the psychic voice is literally a next door neighbor in my head of the creative voice. A lot of times where I get my creative ideas or especially for storytelling. So I preface that by saying I create when I write, but I also create when I dance and with my music and that sort of thing. Here I'm looking more at writing, but you could use this and extrapolate the same method that we're looking at today for other forms of creativity and storytelling, whatever story or form you'd like to tell your story in. So let's just jump right into this and show you what I mean. Say you are going to write a creative, just to do something for fun, a creative exercise, and you're going to write a short story, but you really are wide open as far as what the story wants to be about. You don't have an impetus already in place. So you might ask your deck, what's my protagonist? What does my protagonist look like? And that can either be look like in an interior way or an exterior way or both, depending on what you get and how you like it. So let's say we're starting a creative story and here I have a reversal. So the card itself, my protagonist, looks like she's in a group of 3 women or 3 feminine entities, however those might express themselves in gender. And when this particular card comes up and it's upright, we haven't gotten really into the minors, and today is going to take us all over the place. So the Three of Cups in general is a cup, as you might guess, of community, of support, of coming together, of friendship and unity. But it also can very specifically point to female friendships. When I use this deck, more often than not, when this card comes up, it literally is talking about your relationship, a woman's relationship to other women in her life, whether those be friends or family. And as you saw, this was a reversal when I first pulled it. And I said, what does my protagonist look like? Well, my protagonist might be any of these 3 characters that I might choose. But the fact that it's a reversal tells me that this friendship and this community that we see when the card is upright has been disturbed. Something about this group has now gone awry. So there's my first question to myself. Who do I want my protagonist to be? I'm going to pick this one right here just because she kind of looks like me. I used to have brownish hair when it wasn't black or red or now gray. So I'll pick this girl right here. Say this is my protagonist. I really like her. And she's part of a group of two other women. And I'm going to say these are the three sisters. Let's just turn this into a three sisters story, since that's a great archetype that we see again and again, and applicable to the card itself. So emotional card, because it's the cups, I'm focusing on the emotional aspects of the relationships between these people. And I see that she might be facing forward, one is facing away, and one has her eye looking at either or both of the figures to her side. That's a story. So now I have a story about a woman who is in a dysfunctional or what is no longer working in her community or friendships, or maybe just a friendship. We know that someone is watching her and her every move. And the fact that we don't see this person's face or the front of their body, when I see figures who are turned away in tarot, that often tells me that they're hiding something, or they just don't want to reveal everything about their character at this time. We've all felt this way. The Five of Cups is a perfect example of times that we go through where we very much want to cloak ourselves in our emotions and kind of be hidden away from the rest of the world while we deal with our emotional self. So the fact that I don't see this particular woman in here makes her more mysterious. I already have a setup. So there's the setup. I have a female protagonist. She's in a group of friends. Some of them are watching her. One's at least watching her closely. Another one is not giving all the information at hand. So let's find out some more information about these other two characters. Let's say, okay, say I want to find out about this one here who's keeping an eye on me, my main character, my protagonist. Okay, tell me about her. Deck, let's take a look. What's her story? The one with the side eye. Ah, okay. We've got the Four of Pentacles and another reversal. This card, when upright, shows a person who is quite content with the items that they have, their material wealth, and they're very content to hold on to it and guard it as well, as the posture shows. This shows that someone has not been guarding their fortune. They've either been spending it or someone else has been spending it unwisely. They have not been paying attention to their money or their finances, and so things are in a bad shape. So that gives me a meta message. Now I know about the financial situation of this character here and a little bit of why she's watching this character here. Something about her money. So she's made bad money decisions. She's watching this other person. Maybe she has it in for her and she wants to take some of her money. And that's why she's watching her so slyly out of the corner of her eye. Let's pull a card to find out about our cloaked figure who has her back to us. What's her story? How does she interact with our protagonist? She is on a journey. So here we have the Eight of Cups card, which is a journey card. It shows an emotional journey. It shows a time when we literally, interestingly, have to turn our back on an emotional situation, which from the outside looks like it's very fulfilling. But to the person inside this emotional situation, some aspect of the situation is completely not fulfilling, and they know they need to move on. They have to turn their back on the ease and the easiness, how it's comfortable, it's easy here in this emotional space. They have to reject that comfort in order to go it alone. They have their guide. Whenever this card comes up, the moon itself is a form of showing your guides are with you and watching you. So while you feel like this journey is taking you in a place of solitude, know that you have a guide watching you and with you. Well, there's a story right there between all three of our cards that we've pulled. And as you know, I often do a 3-card reading. There's a 3-card setup right there. We could keep going. I might pull one more just for fun. But to review, here's our situation. We've got three characters, with our protagonist being our narrator or our primary point of view, and then their relationship with two other women in the situation. One woman who's got her side eye on the protagonist, and this is a dysfunctional relationship because of the reversal. Why is it so dysfunctional? Why has she got a side eye? This woman has lost her money. There's something about her money situation has gone upside down. And therefore, she's watching the comfort and the ease of my protagonist, I can say. And maybe she wants some of what this protagonist has. Maybe she's scheming, like we said. But the one here that we can't see, what are her motivations? She's hidden to us. We can't get a good read on who she is or what she is. That tells me about the character relationship between my protagonist and this person, that this is a person who's more mysterious than this person in my story. And why is this person acting this way? Well, this person's on an emotional journey and they're about to leave this emotional situation. Cups and cups. These two relate to each other. So we could say here in this card, being an emotionally fulfilling situation that you are leaving behind could be the emotional triangle of this friendship. Maybe this particular person, and look at the similarities both in the back and in the cloaking, the color of the cloak. Really, even the cloaking of this one becomes very similar when you start to look at some of the aspects that tie the cards together. So what does that mean? I don't know. Usually cloaks, if it's a red, this kind of looks like a reddish orange to me. This is much more of a true red. In this light, it can be hard to tell. This is more of an orangish red. So what do those colors mean to you? What emotions do those connote? Do they connote anger, or do they connote warmth, friendship, growth, or fire, hostility? Any of those might be choices that you would want to go with. So right here, with only 3 cards, I have an entire setup and relationships, 2 relationships to begin to explore to start the story itself. Now, when you talk about story writing, I'm going to detour just for a second here to get a little bit English major on you. I was an English major and I've done a lot of creative writing in the course of my life. One of the things they teach you in creative writing is conflict drives the plot. That's a golden rule in story writing. So if you're going to have an interesting story, there's going to be conflict. If you want it to be meaningful conflict, you have to create meaningful characters that your reader can either identify with because they like them or identify with because they dislike them. But either way, they'll form an emotional connection to the character on the page and then the problem you put them through, the conflict. So to bring that back to what we were just saying, here we've established our protagonist, the nature of our conflict, and some of the driving motivations between two other people who are entwined in this conflict with this friendship, or even emotional relationship. Maybe one of them is a sister, maybe one of them is a cousin, maybe a mother, maybe another form of sister or female companionship relationship than just a friend. Could be any of that. Could be the 3 sisters, like we said. So this in and of itself, that can get you started. What if you want to know where the story ends? Say, what's my ending point? What's the final lesson? We could say that. Ooh, Lordy, this poor character. Our final lesson is the tower. We haven't gotten to the tower yet in the Fool's Journey. We are almost there. That's card 16. So we will be coming up on it in just another month or so. But the tower is a card, as you might guess, looking at these images of conflict. Look once again that we have another character with the same color hair and the same color cloak. That tells me something. This character is this character. So something about this final conflict or final resolution. I asked what was my character's ending point, the end of my story. The end of the story is everything goes quite awry, and everything that she thought she knew has now been shaken to the core. All of her core beliefs have been challenged, and many of her ego concepts have been destroyed in the process. Also interesting here, if we go back again to the fact that I chose the brunette as my protagonist, but look here how we also have a blonde to accompany our redhead. This literally could be a way that to inspire you to continue the story, that the 2 people who suffer most from this tower moment that we build to climactically, makes perfect sense from storytelling, these are the 2 people who suffer the most from the truth that is revealed in the final moment. Wow, right there. There's a whole story. You could either do a short story, a long story, a novel, or anything in between. But maybe you're in the middle of writing a novel already. I'm going to leave these 4 cards out while I continue to draw cards so that we don't repeat. So Maybe you're in the middle of writing something, or you're in the middle of a creative project already and you're stuck. You have no idea. It's just you don't really like any of the plot points. I have a jumper. What can I do? What should my character do? Or maybe I think this jumper is describing the state of mind that I was just talking about. Because this particular card, especially because you see the wrap around the head, shows times when we are very damaged. Something's going on up here. Either we're depressed, we're sad, we have a bad point of view, and we know it. We know that things aren't right for us, that we're not feeling the way we usually feel in our head. So we are recovering. This is a card of recovery, but it's also one of shielding and protection. So, okay, there's something right there. Maybe that was the point that I wanted to come to next, or maybe that was the cards trying to show me the state of mind I was describing with my writer's block, because that kind of is a funny way of describing writer's block. It's a mental problem. Okay, so maybe here's where I'm at, or maybe there's my answer, but I'll accept that jumper. Thank you, Tarot. And say, I don't know what I have this whole story I'm writing. I just don't know what's going to come next. Like, how does my character get out of this situation? What is going to happen? Oh boy. And I pulled the Wheel of Fortune. Here come all of our majors coming out now to play. So the Wheel of Fortune, we did talk about, this is a turn of fate. This is the wheel has turned. Your fortune has changed. Good fortune has become bad. Bad fortune has become good. Nothing stays the same. So this kind of can become a next idea of what, if I'm stuck in a writer's block moment, maybe I don't need the entire premise like we just created in the last reading. But instead, I just want to pull some inspiration and go in different directions with it. I might pull a card. Well, here the card says there's a major reversal of fortune coming next for this person. That would be a great plot point. So let's talk for a second. I'm going to go back to these 4 cards that we pulled from our original short story concept. And I wanted to say at the beginning of the reading, we talked about how all 3, 1, 2, and 3, that these are minors and that really the major arcana came last. There's a way to use that as well. So in our readings, whenever majors come up, like we've said on the Fool's Journey series, the major arcana carry more weight. They carry more gravitas in their delivery. So they have a message, as I often say to people, which will touch you on the soul level. So where stuff like this is going to be going along, and it might be something you're going through for 3, 6 months, maybe even a year at a time, that you're going through a time of rejecting what you've been given and searching on your own path, this is going to resolve itself. This is not your life's purpose. This is not your soul at work or your destiny, all of those big words. But the majors are. So there's a way to reflect that in your storytelling as well. So if we have these more minor events, but we know that we built to such a major climactic event, which is really going to have so much effect that it affects our protagonist on the soul level. So we have to be able to bring that level of conflict and of resolution to our writing. So it doesn't just become a skirmish or a skiff. It literally shows the epiphanies and the other soul-changing revelations that our character might have had along the way. And that same thing applies anytime that you have a major come up when you're using it this way. You know that this can be something that's a much deeper or has deeper consequences. Maybe it looks simple on the surface, but has major repercussions. That's another way of writing in what a major can mean in a reading. Okay, so here's some really cool ones that I showed you with this particular one. Today is just going to be a supersized episode. I owe you guys that. I know I'm a whole day late getting it up to you, but I was so excited to talk about this, and I've been on vacation and it's just been crazy. So let's just take a little extra time while I take a moment to show you. I brought out one more deck. Like we said at the tip top, you can certainly use your tarot. It's a great exercise for your tarot reading to kind of influence yourself and push yourself in other ways instead of just reading and prognosticating and divinating. So what about here? I have grabbed, let me show the camera, a lot of them are reversed. This is the Answer deck. I talked about this in a few videos way back, talking about oracle decks versus tarot decks. What's the difference? What do they look like? Can they look different? This in particular is not a tarot deck. There are no majors, there are no minors, there are no court cards. And as I say court cards, let me segue back to my tarot just long enough to tell you, look who's right here on top to help me. If you happen to get any of the court cards while you're using this particular a deck for this reason, the court cards, like we've said, when we're using them for divination, are the cards which most often will talk about a separate personage. So if you had something like this come up while you were using your tarot for creative writing, this could literally, I would be inclined, instead of applying it inwardly to my protagonist or my character, I would take this as an inclination of a new character that has now been introduced to the situation, and that would be the Knight of Pentacles. It could literally follow the gender that you see, or it might just be qualities that bespeak the entire character, regardless of gender, for your character that you're creating next. So it might be a man who speaks little and watches a lot, a mysterious dark stranger, since we see the darkness of the, who is very wealthy, since it comes in with pentacles. There are all kinds of fanciful ways to just create a character just by grabbing a court card, if those were to show up. Okay, so back to our answer deck. So here we are, we have all kinds. That one says victory. So this particular deck, I definitely, communication, pulled in particular as one to show you because it is so dramatic, right? Anxiety. It's so dramatic. It's such a dramatic deck, but it also speaks very succinctly for me. Whenever I was using it for reading purposes, I found that it just would get straight to the point, no flowery language, no sparing your feelings, just answer, answer, answer deck, right? So with that being the case, that same concept can apply. So the same methodology that we used for our tarot, we can use for our oracle deck. And so as we take a look, maybe we're going to just pull a situation. Oh, this is interesting. Power. So I'm going to pull a card for power. Maybe power's being literal. Maybe this actually makes me think of not power that you have as a person. It makes me think of power that you have as electricity. So maybe there's something that's gone wrong with the electrical grid, or maybe my character's sitting in the dark. And why? Let's see, who's my character? I pulled